Joshua loved his horse. It was a magnificent creature, strong and fast. The horse was his pride, his companion, his most valuable possession. They worked the land together, rode across the plains, and shared a bond of mutual respect and affection. Joshua felt truly blessed. One day he noticed a change in his horse's demeanor. It was restless, its ears constantly twitching, its eyes scanning the horizon. Joshua couldn't understand this sudden shift. He checked the horse for injuries but found none. He wondered what troubled his loyal friend. Then, one morning, the horse was gone. The stable, usually filled with the comforting sounds of his horse, was eerily silent. Joshua awoke to find the stable door ajar and the stall empty. Panic surged through him as he realized his beloved horse was missing. He searched his property, calling out his horse's name until his voice was hoarse. Every corner of the farm was checked, but there was no sign of his horse. His neighbors joined the search, but their efforts proved futile. Despair washed over Joshua as the hours passed with no news. He felt lost without his horse, a companion that had been with him through thick and thin. His neighbors offered condolences, but their words rang hollow. They tried to comfort him, but nothing could fill the void. Some even suggested he'd left the stable door open, implying carelessness on his part, which only added to his guilt. Joshua felt a knot of anger tighten in his chest. How could they think he would be so careless? He retreated into himself, questioning his fate. Well, why me? He lamented. The loss was unbearable, and he felt utterly alone. Weeks later, just as Joshua began to accept his loss, a figure appeared on the horizon. It was his horse, galloping back to him. Relief flooded Joshua, washing away the weeks of worry and despair. But as the horse drew closer, Joshua noticed something else. It wasn't alone. A whole herd of wild horses followed close behind, their manes flowing in the wind. Joshua's horse had not simply returned, it had brought him a gift, a fortune beyond his wildest dreams. His neighbors, initially sympathetic, were now green with envy. Section 4. A son's misfortune. Life, however, has a way of shifting perspectives. Joshua's son, while attempting to tame one of the wild horses, was thrown off its back. His leg was broken, and the village healer predicted he might never walk properly again. The villagers, quick to judge, murmured that Joshua's newfound fortune was cursed. Joshua, however, refused to succumb to despair. He cared for his son with unwavering devotion, whispering words of encouragement and sharing stories of resilience. Deep down, he clung to the belief that this misfortune, too, held a hidden purpose. Section 5. War's shadow. Their small village, nestled amidst rolling hills, had always been spared from conflict. The villagers lived simple lives, tending to their fields and livestock and enjoying the tranquility that their remote location provided. This peace, however, was shattered with the arrival of the king's men. The sound of hooves and clanking armor disrupted the serene atmosphere, sending waves of anxiety through the community. War had broken out in a distant land, and the king was calling upon all able-bodied men to join his army. The village square, once a place of gathering and celebration, now echoed with the grim news of conscription. Fear gripped the village as young men were rounded up, their faces etched with uncertainty and dread. Mothers wept and fathers stood in silent resignation, knowing the fate that awaited their sons. When they came to Joshua's house, he presented his son, his leg still healing from a recent accident. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, and Joshua's heart ached for him. The king's men deemed him unfit for battle and moved on. The boy's injury, which had once seemed like a curse, now appeared to be a blessing in disguise. Relief washed over Joshua, but it was a bittersweet feeling, knowing that his son's misfortune had spared him from a different fate. The village would never be the same, and the shadow of war loomed over their once peaceful lives. Section 6. The wisdom of patience. The war raged on for what felt like an eternity. The sound of gunfire and the cries of the wounded filled the air, creating a symphony of chaos and despair. News from the front line was grim. Many young men from their village never returned. Each day brought new reports of casualties, deepening the villagers' sorrow. When the war finally ended, the village was a tapestry of grief and loss. The once vibrant community was now marked by the scars of battle, both physical and emotional. Almost every household mourned a son, a brother, a husband, The cemetery became a place of daily pilgrimage where families sought solace among the graves of their loved ones. Joshua, standing with his son, whose leg had healed remarkably well, looked out at the somber landscape. The pain of the past was still fresh, but there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He realized the profound truth in his experiences. The trials they had faced had taught them resilience and the value of patience. What seemed like misfortune, the loss of his horse, his son's accident, had been blessings in disguise. These events had kept them away from the front lines, ultimately saving their lives. His initial despair had blinded him to the larger plan, the intricate workings of fate. Now, with a clearer perspective, he understood that patience and faith had guided them through the darkest times. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, wrote paraphrasing that truth, saying, "God works all things together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose." Romans 8:28. In conclusion, this story teaches us that what we perceive as bad luck can often be blessings in disguise. By trusting in God's greater plan, we can find peace and purpose in our trials, knowing that everything works together for the good of those who love him. When we learn to trust in a greater plan and embrace life's challenges, we can achieve spiritual growth and deeper peace and accept everything, even trials, as blessing in disguise. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and life lessons.